When people ask how it all started, I never know what to say. Was it the day my sister-in-law carried her suitcase into our home, smiling sweetly, saying she just needed a place to heal? Or was it earlier, when I ignored the small tremor in my chest that whispered, "Don't let her in, not again"? Either way, by the time I realized what she'd done, the damage was already woven into the quiet corners of our lives, the kind of betrayal that doesn't make a sound until it's too late. Life before Fiona moved in was peaceful, almost ordinary. I'd been married to Marcus for 4 years. We lived in a small, sunlit house at the edge of town, the kind with creaky floors and soft morning light that slipped through half-open curtains. Every Saturday, we made pancakes together. Every Sunday, Marcus mowed the lawn while I watered the plants. Our wedding gifts still decorated the house: the crystal vase from my aunt, the silver tea set from Marcus's boss, the hand-stitched quilt my mother spent months making. They weren't just things. They were memories wrapped in ribbons, reminders of how loved we were when we started this life together. Marcus worked long hours at the logistics company, but when he came home, he'd always kiss me on the forehead before anything else. I taught literature at the local school. Nothing glamorous, but fulfilling. We had a rhythm, a balance, a quiet trust. Then Fiona called. She sounded small over the phone, fragile, even. "Marcus, I can't stay there anymore. He took everything," she said, her voice breaking. Her marriage had ended badly. Her husband, Kevin, had left, supposedly for another woman. She had nowhere to go, she said. Marcus, being the gentle soul he is, didn't hesitate. "Of course, Fiona. You can stay here. For as long as you need." He turned to me, eyes soft, asking for silent permission. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to help, but because Fiona and I had always had a complicated history. She was the kind of woman who could smile and cut you at the same time, sweet to everyone else, sharp with me. But Marcus loved his sister. And in our marriage, family always came first. So I smiled. Of course she can stay. The first few days weren't so bad. She kept to herself mostly, said she was still processing things. She cooked dinner twice that week, which Marcus praised endlessly. I told myself it was fine. But small things began to change. My favorite mug went missing. Then the silver napkin rings from the dining table. Fiona would laugh and say, "You know how things just vanish in this house. Must be the ghosts." I didn't like the joke. One afternoon, while folding laundry, I noticed her wearing my scarf, a soft beige one Marcus had given me on our 2nd anniversary. "Oh, this old thing," she said, smiling. "It was in the laundry. I thought it was one of mine. It wasn't. But I let it go. Because isn't that what good wives do? We keep the peace." Weeks passed. Fiona's energy filled the house like perfume, sweet but overwhelming. She had opinions on everything. The way I cooked, the way I folded towels, even how I should spend less on flowers because fresh ones die so fast anyway. Marcus brushed it off. "She's just trying to help, baby." Help. That word became her armor. When I came home from work and found her reorganizing the living room, she said, "I'm helping you declutter." When I caught her going through boxes in our attic, she said, "Just helping you get rid of old junk." But those boxes weren't junk. They were our wedding gifts, carefully stored, waiting for when we'd move into a bigger home. At first, I didn't think much of it. She said she was dusting. But soon, I noticed gaps. The crystal vase was gone. Then the engraved photo frame. Then the entire set of silver cutlery. I told Marcus, voice tight, "Things are missing, Marcus. I think Fiona's taking them." He sighed. "Come on, Mia. She's had a rough year. Don't start accusing her of stealing. Maybe you misplaced them." Misplaced? Like I could misplace a 24-piece silver set. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling fan, the sound of its slow blades matching the rhythm of my anger. Something was wrong. And I was done pretending it wasn't. A few days later, I decided to test a theory. I took the hand-stitched quilt, the one my mother made for us, embroidered with our initials, and placed it neatly in a box in the attic. I told no one. The next morning, I went up there again. The box was open. The quilt was gone. I remember standing there, staring at the empty space, my breath turning shallow. It wasn't just about the quilt. It was about everything that quilt represented: my mother's love, our wedding vows, the trust in our home. And it was gone. That evening, I waited until Marcus went to bed. Then I sat in the dark living room, scrolling through Facebook Marketplace. I don't even know why. Maybe intuition. Then I saw it. A listing titled "Vintage Hand-Stitched Quilt, Mint Condition." The photos were unmistakable. My mother's delicate stitching, the small heart she'd sewn into the corner. The seller's profile picture was Fiona. I felt my throat close up. My hands trembled. For a long time, I just sat there, staring at the screen. I didn't cry. Not yet. I just whispered to myself, she really did it. That was the night something in me shifted from patience to resolve. I wasn't going to tell Marcus yet. I needed proof, not just suspicion, not emotion. Proof. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: in a family, truth without evidence is just noise. And Fiona was counting on me to stay quiet. But she didn't know me as well as she thought she did. The next morning, I woke before dawn. The house was silent except for the faint hum of the refrigerator and the low, rhythmic snores coming from the guest room. Fiona slept late most days, said she needed time to rest and recover. That gave me time to act. I crept into the living room, phone in hand, and took screenshots of the entire listing, every photo, every word, every timestamp. Then, I clicked through her other listings. My breath caught. There it was. Crystal vase, slightly used, excellent condition. Silver cutlery set, 24 pieces, perfect for collectors. Vintage photo frame with engraving. She'd listed nearly everything that had gone missing. The prices were modest, just low enough to seem believable, but enough to earn her hundreds. My wedding gifts, memories, love, promises were being traded like second-hand trinkets. I felt sick. When Marcus woke up, I wanted to tell him everything right away. But I stopped myself. He'd only defend her. He always did. So I smiled like nothing was wrong. Made him breakfast. Kissed him goodbye. Then, as soon as the door shut, I picked up my phone and called my friend Tara. She worked at a small antique shop downtown and knew every seller in the area. "Hey," I said, keeping my voice low. "Do you ever buy from Facebook Marketplace?" "All the time." "Why?" "There's a woman, Fiona Price. You seen that name?" A pause. Then a quiet sigh. "Mia, yeah. She came in last week with some silver cutlery and a vase. Said she was helping her sister clear out old wedding stuff." My stomach twisted. "Did you buy them?" "Yeah. I paid her cash." I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. "Do you still have them?" "The vase, yes. The cutlery sold." Why? I didn't answer right away. My voice cracked when I finally said, "Because those things belong to me." That afternoon, I drove to the shop. The bell above the door chimed softly as I entered. Tara's face fell when she saw me. She didn't need an explanation. She just walked to the back and returned with the vase, that beautiful, tall crystal one with a tiny chip at the base. I ran my fingers over it, tears blurring my vision. "I'm sorry, Mia," Tara whispered. "I didn't know." "It's not your fault," I said. "You just bought what she sold. She's the one who lied." I paid Tara to hold onto the vase and the proof of sale. She even printed the transaction record for me. Evidence. Real, undeniable evidence. Now, I just needed to decide what to do with it. That night at dinner, Fiona was radiant, wearing one of her silk blouses and my favorite earrings. "I made lasagna," she said brightly. "Your favorite, Mia." Her tone dripped with sugar, but I could taste the rot underneath. Marcus smiled, oblivious. "This is great, Fiona. You should open a restaurant." She laughed softly. "Oh, please. I'm just helping out around here. You both do so much for me." "Helping out?" I wanted to scream. Instead, I forced a smile, picked up my food, and waited for my moment. After dinner, while she scrolled through her phone on the couch, I pretended to tidy up. Quietly, I walked behind her, slow, deliberate, and saw her screen. Facebook Marketplace. She was chatting with a buyer. "Can meet tomorrow," she typed. "The jewelry box is lovely, barely used." Jewelry box. I froze. That was my grandmother's, the one with the velvet interior and gold latch. That was it. I couldn't pretend anymore. I waited until Marcus went upstairs. Then I turned to Fiona. Where's the jewelry box? She looked up, startled. What? The jewelry box. The one from my grandmother. Oh, she said, blinking innocently. I think I saw that in the attic. Why? I took a step closer. You didn't see it in the attic, Fiona. You listed it online. Her face stiffened. Excuse me. I saw it. Along with the vase, the cutlery, the quilt. You've been selling our wedding gifts for weeks. She stood up, laughter bubbling out like acid. You're being ridiculous, Mia. I held up my phone, showing her the screenshots. Am I? The color drained from her face. Do you really want to make a fool of yourself over a few old things? She hissed. They were just collecting dust. You don't even appreciate what you have. They weren't things, I said quietly. They were memories. You stole pieces of our life. She rolled her eyes, grabbed her phone, and stormed past me. I'm done with this conversation. But for the first time since she'd arrived, I didn't move aside. I stood in her way. No, Fiona. You don't get to walk away from this. Her expression hardened. You think Marcus will believe you? Please. He knows how dramatic you can be. And, just like that, she walked off, calm, confident, as if I were the one losing my mind. But I had proof. And now I had a plan. That night, while Marcus slept, I emailed myself every screenshot, every chat record, every bit of evidence I'd collected. Then I printed them out and put them in an envelope labeled for Marcus. The next day, I asked him to meet me for lunch at the small cafe near his office, Neutral Ground. He looked worried when he arrived. Is everything okay? You sounded serious. I took a deep breath, slid the envelope across the table. Just look inside. He frowned, opened it, and I watched his expression shift from confusion to disbelief to slow, dawning horror. Where did you get this? He asked quietly. From Fiona's public listings. And from Tara at the antique shop. He stared at the photos, the quilt, the vase, the listings under his sister's name. His hands trembled. For a long time, he said nothing. Then he whispered, I can't believe she'd do this. I didn't answer. I just let him sit with the truth. Finally, he looked up. We'll handle this. Tonight. When we got home, Fiona was in the living room, painting her nails, the TV humming softly in the background. Marcus dropped the envelope onto the table. Explain this. She froze, eyes darting between us. Marcus, Don't lie, he said, voice breaking. Just tell me why. Tears welled in her eyes, perfectly timed, almost rehearsed. I was desperate, Marcus. I needed money. You know how hard things have been for me. So you stole from us? I asked quietly. I borrowed, she cried. I was going to replace them once I got back on my feet. Marcus sank into the couch, his face pale. You sold our wedding gifts, Fiona. Mom's vase. Mia's mother's quilt. How could you? She looked at me, not with remorse, but with resentment. You've always had everything, Mia. The perfect house, the perfect husband. You can't even share a few gifts with someone who's struggling. Her voice rose, sharp and bitter. But Marcus didn't defend her this time. He just said, quietly, you need to leave. Fiona stared at him in disbelief. You're choosing her over me? I'm choosing honesty, he said. She didn't argue. She just stood up, grabbed her purse, and walked out without a word. The sound of the door closing felt like both a wound and a relief. For the first time in months, the house was silent again. But I knew the quiet wouldn't last. The real storm was still coming. The silence that followed Fiona's departure was thick, not peaceful, but heavy. It hung in every room, like the echo of something broken. For days, Marcus barely spoke. He moved through the house like a shadow, quiet, distant, lost. I tried to comfort him, but how could I? Fiona wasn't just his sister. She was the last link to his parents, the girl he'd promised to protect since they were children. And now he had to face the truth that the person he loved most had betrayed him. On the third night, I found him in the living room, staring at the wedding photos on the mantel. She always said this house felt like home, he whispered. I thought letting her stay here would help her heal. I didn't think she'd. He couldn't finish the sentence. I sat beside him, gently taking his hand. You did what you thought was right, Marcus. That's what makes you good. Her choices don't change that. He nodded, eyes glistening, but his expression stayed distant. She's family, Mia, he murmured. What if she has nowhere to go? I hesitated. After what she did? He sighed. People make mistakes. Maybe she just lost her way. I wanted to believe that too. But in my heart, I knew Fiona's actions weren't a mistake, they were deliberate. And I wasn't done uncovering the truth. A week later, I got a message from an unknown number. You think you've won, but this isn't over. F. I froze. The words were cold, almost taunting. I showed Marcus, but he just rubbed his eyes, exhausted. She's angry. Ignore her. She'll calm down. But I couldn't. Something about the message felt different, darker. And then small things started happening. The lock on the back door was tampered with. A strange car idled near our driveway at night. And one morning, I found muddy footprints on the porch, barefoot. Marcus said I was imagining it. But my gut told me otherwise. 2 days later, I came home early from work and froze at the sight before me. The front door was slightly open. Inside, the living room was a mess. Cushions tossed, drawers half open, photo frames shattered on the floor. And on the dining table, a note written in Fiona's neat, looping handwriting. You took everything from me. Now it's your turn to lose something you love. My heart stopped. I grabbed my phone, hands shaking, and called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. Marcus, where are you? On my way home, why? What's wrong? Don't come in through the front. Call the police. Now. The police arrived within minutes. They swept through the house, took photos, asked questions. Nothing valuable was taken, not money, not jewelry. It wasn't theft this time. It was a message. Marcus stood beside me on the porch, jaw clenched. She's gone too far. I didn't say anything. My voice was gone, swallowed by fear. The officers said they'd file a report and keep an eye on the area, but without evidence of physical harm, there wasn't much they could do. That night, we installed new locks, added cameras, and double-checked every window. But even as I lay in bed beside Marcus, listening to the wind rustling outside, I couldn't shake the feeling that Fiona was still watching us. Days turned into weeks. We tried to move on, went back to work, started rebuilding what she'd broken. But I noticed the change in Marcus. He laughed less, spoke less. Sometimes I caught him staring out the window, lost in thought. I found him sitting in the garage, holding a box, the one labeled Fiona's things. I kept it, he said softly. Her photos, her letters. I just couldn't throw them away. I knelt beside him. Marcus, maybe holding on to these isn't helping. He looked at me, pain flickering in his eyes. You don't understand. She's my sister. I can't just erase her. I'm not asking you to erase her, I said gently. But you can't let her keep haunting you either. He didn't answer. He just looked down at the box again, and that's when I saw it. Tucked between the letters was an old photograph, but something was written on the back. A message. Recent ink. You'll never be free of me. We took the photo straight to the police. They said it was likely left before she disappeared, maybe part of her last visit. But I knew better. The ink was fresh. Someone had been in our garage. Again. Marcus finally agreed to get a restraining order, though I could tell it tore him apart to sign the papers. I hate this, he said quietly. She's still my sister. She stopped being family the day she chose revenge over love, I whispered. Weeks later, Fiona's name finally disappeared from the local marketplace pages. Her social media went dark. It was as if she'd vanished from the world. For the first time in months, life felt almost normal again. We hosted friends, redecorated, even took a weekend trip. I started to believe it was over. Until one night, about a month later, I woke up to a faint tapping at the window. At first, I thought it was the wind. But then I heard it again, slow, deliberate, rhythmic. Tap. Pause. Tap. I sat up, heart pounding. Marcus stirred beside me. Do you hear that? I whispered. He blinked groggily, then turned toward the window. Nothing. Just darkness. He got up, went to check. When he pulled the curtain back, there was no one there. Just the faint reflection of his own face. But when he looked down, his breath caught. Someone had drawn a heart on the glass. In red lipstick. The next morning, the police reviewed the camera footage. It was blurry, a figure in a dark hoodie, face turned away, walking quickly down the driveway. But I didn't need a clear image to know who it was. It was Fiona. And she was back. Marcus broke down that night. I should have seen this coming, he said, voice shaking. I should have helped her before she got this far. You tried, I said softly. She made her choice. He nodded, but his eyes were filled with tears. I just don't understand how love can turn into hate so easily. I looked at him, my heart aching. Because for some people, love isn't about giving, it's about control. A month later, the police found Fiona in a small town 2 hours away, living under a different name, selling antiques from a rented storage unit. She was arrested for trespassing and theft. When Marcus got the call, he didn't speak for a long time. Finally, he whispered, maybe this will force her to get help. I wanted to believe that. I really did. After her sentencing, Marcus and I drove out to the lake, the place where we'd taken our wedding photos. The air was cool, the water still. He took my hand. I'm sorry for everything you went through because of her. You don't have to apologize for her choices, I said gently. We survived it, Marcus. That's what matters. He smiled faintly, squeezing my hand. You saved us, Mia. I looked out over the water, the reflection of the sunset shimmering across the surface. No, I said quietly. We saved each other. And as the sun dipped below the horizon, I realized something. Sometimes the people we welcome into our homes carry storms we can't see. Sometimes love blinds us to the danger right in front of us. But no matter how much someone tries to steal your peace, you can always reclaim it. Even if it means closing the door on someone you once called family.